Cool. So compared to something like leading up to 2005 when you put out Oceana, what did that sort of era of practice look for you like?
Leading up, I mean, it's been the same more or less for forever. There's the ideal practice routine, which almost never actually happens in real life, and then there's what I do, but it's some sort of approximation or compromise
Mhm.
between my aspirations and reality. Um, and I actually put practice schedules on my wall, which are generally impossible to complete, but it just makes me feel better having them there, and that means it goes along with the whole systematic thing, like a 1 through whatever, a 10 thing.
Mhm.
That said, I do advise people to focus on fewer subjects per day and be more thorough and more exhaustive with them. So if I say like I list 1 through 10 things, that's maybe not the wisest thing on earth.
Can you give an example of what like a few days of practicing would look like what you have scheduled for yourself and what you actually end up trying to
Um,
tackle?
yeah, I'll generally start with chord work. So um, I used to practice. It used to be that the first thing I would go to when I picked up the guitar were reading through Bach chorales, or not reading, not like sight reading through them, but figuring out how to actually play the 4-part chorales on guitar,
Mhm.
which is usually like 90% doable. The way that they're actually written. There's just they're finding some sort of non-guitaristic ways to solve those problems. And those are, first of all, it's a great thing to hear first thing in the day. Um, and lessons in just counterpoint and voice leading harmony kind of endless. So I'll do that, and then I'll do 2 or 3 hours of chord work, starting with triads. I mean, I don't know how detailed you want me to get, but there's
I
lots you
mean,
can do. Lots you can do with triads.
I have no interest in appeasing the layperson. This is like I want to get
clearly
as
not.
deep into the weeds as I can with you.
Okay. Well, voice leading triads through cycles, like
Mhm.
uh, books, and figuring practical ways to actually improvise with them over changing harmony and over static harmony. Um, Finding inner voice movement with through triad cycles. There's a lot of the George Van Epps harmonic mechanisms book that goes into like inner voice, neighbor tones and passing tones
Mhm.
in just in triads, and so exploring those, just pretty much every possible thing you could do with, and also of course there's all the inversions and the and playing open closed positions and different voices, different spacings.
Mhm.
Um,
So how
so
many hours?
I
Yeah, how
have
many hours? Sorry.
yeah, this is a little bit off topic, but I have attempted, since I read, um, the first person that introduced this idea to me was the great bass player Renzo Harris. He said that at least once in your life you need to practice for 24 hours, and it'll change your life. So I'm like, all right, I'll take that challenge. So 3 separate times in my life I've attempted to do this, and I've failed every time. I just fell asleep. Like I haven't done it. And also reading, I think Ravi Shankar has a couple of autobiographies, but I read one, like I think the first shorter one where he talks about a sort of a rite of passage. Like every Hindustani musician goes through a 3-day practice binge, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to call it. Like you, and if I'm remembering correctly, I think he had to play the same. He was just playing the tabla, the same tala, for 3 days, and his teacher and other people would sit outside of his hut to make sure they didn't stop, and they would spell each other. So, anyway, I guess my point for saying that, like, I think the closest I got was like 22 hours, and I'm just like asleep. I just remember that at the end of that, I'm on my floor, the guitar like on my stomach. The only thing I could do was like practice like slow quarter notes to a metronome. So I had the metronome on like 3 beats per minute, and I'm trying to accurately play 3 beats per minute with the click, and like I'm sort of like falling asleep between beats. Anyway, it didn't end well, and I just like conked out. But my point in bringing this up is when I feel like when I have like an ocean of time in front of me, it's really liberating because I know that I can practice every subject. I don't have to impose a time limit on it really.
Mm-hmm.
So I could do triads for 3-4 hours, and there's 3 or 4 hours a day in that if you practice everything in every key. And I mean, just think about it. You could probably practice triads for 8 hours. Not that that's advisable, but
Well, 24-hour practice marathon, that's something I should aspire to. It
I mean,
it's
I don't
something
know
that's
how healthy it is, but you know what? Let me sorry to interrupt. But the first time I
not.
did it, even though I didn't make it, I think I made it like maybe like 20. I felt like my playing grew like exponentially just from having done that, and I felt like for like months I felt the after effects of it. Didn't happen so much in the other times, and I don't know, maybe I'm just getting too old for this
Mm-hmm.
nonsense, but I felt like maybe it was, I don't know if it was detrimental, but I felt like my fingers were like stiff and like swollen and whatever. I don't know if I'm going to try it again, but if I did, this would be the perfect opportunity.
Mm-hmm. I
um,
agree.
um, anyway, so getting back to the ideal practice schedule, like 4 hours of chords, one topic. I mean, I talked about triads, but there's lots of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe the plectrum is trying some stuff with that.
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm always trying to write. I feel like it's kind of something I need to keep up, or I'll just kind of like lose my motivation for it. So there's always some of that, and then there's of course just like practicing the pieces that I'm actually trying to ever perform.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a day. Um, a friend of mine suggested a few years ago something really helpful for me, which was just, because I was saying there are all these things I want to get to, and I never seem to have enough time. Um, and other life things get in the way,
Mm-hmm.
food, or changing cat litter. Um, so he said, just set an egg timer. This is probably before the iPhone, where you have a timer on your phone, but just set a timer. Like, I want to do this subject. I want to make sure that I do it. So I'm just going to like set an hour. I'm not going to be distracted. I mean, one thing that helps is just like put your devices away when you're practicing. So the quality of your practice will be the highest level. And just, yes, set, I guess you can't really set your iPhone timer and have your device be put away, but so maybe get the egg timer after all, although the ticking might be a bit distracting. Anyway, you get my point.
Yeah, yeah.
Shut up now.